Every once in a while I remember, I believe you deleted that video. It was not a bad subject to cover. I believe you deleted it because you didn't like really the tangents you went on, or old man babbling, or trying to say something shocking. So I had to rethink it. So, okay, the amount of, so these, any company that's spending a lot of money, like the entertainment companies that are called video game companies, there's a lot of borrowing involved in that. There's a lot of equipment, top of the line equipment, which always has to be, that you're always throwing kind of more money at, because it's like top of the line. It's, brand new on the market. So it's going to have some bugs and some kinks to how it works. So there's just a lot of debt involved, where you have to borrow a lot of money to make a lot of money. And the amount of money that's going into a lot of entertainment projects at the moment, the rate at which interest is accruing on these debts is one of its own problems for the borrowers, for the entertainment company. But then the next problem for these entertainment companies is this. A lot of the materials that they are having to use, high technology, computational devices, especially things like screens and stuff like that, the prices of those are going to rise because the value of the dollar is changing drastically and very quickly, that it's buying less gold by almost literally the minute at this stage. Silver is, you can't get silver sent to you physically at its spot price in the 20s. It is $30 fundamentally per ounce. It's for all intents and purposes, silver is $30 an ounce. If you get an actual coin of silver, then one of the key problems that you're going to have is that that's going to be $35 to $40, because it's actually like a minted coin. It's from a real official mint. If I remember correctly, an actual gold eagle, I believe there's gold walking liberties, right? But like, say, a gold eagle at this point is getting you somewhere near $2,500. So by the minute, the dollar is actually losing its ability to buy stuff. And you could see it. You could compare it to something extremely real that there's a finite amount of in the world. Because with oil, you don't know, really how much there is in the world. We have lots of estimates, but we don't really know. That's why the floating standard is a vagary. It's one of the very first vagaries that we took on during sort of the cultural revolution of our country, that descends from the intellectual class, this vagary of what the money is actually worth, and that's undone. That's undoing the republic as we know it. Is this embracing of vagaries and amorphous concepts that we're saying that we're holding ourselves up on. So these entertainment firms are now going to have a harder and harder time dealing with debt. So they have to pay back. These games have to pay back. You got to see this. This is amazing. Look at these trees. See, this is the magic. Like, this kind of thing is why Oregon is great. Yeah, let me try to get a good shot of it. Yeah, that's beautiful. See, that's where it's at, And so all right, so they have to pay back this debt. These video game companies are now going to have a harder time, especially if they're attached, like Microsoft or Sony, to some kind of physical platform. That's gold and silver that goes into that, and a variety of other rare metals. And they want it to always have new and amazing performance capabilities. That also is starting to become its own problem. As there's this idea of, oh, look, this game does something that no other game has ever done, and that it actually has bugs so bad that, I mean, there's real fundamental functionality that's no longer working. And we're seeing this at sort of every level of everything, as really it's not so much this idea of, oh, because of all the diversity. No. It's that so much is done by weird committee decision rather than having sort of the 2 or 3 grumpy old cusses, and experts in it that just kind of tell people what to do. And because it's master to student, that the higher and more rarefied any skill or trade gets, it's the way humans are, master to student, mouth to ear. You can't beat that. Making committees that supposedly, we're a team, yay, that doesn't really do it. That's not how humans perform actually really well. That's the bottom of the labor pyramid. Our manufacturing systems, and the division of labor, the way the division of labor works at the elite level is just simply different. So because of this idea that we have these sort of vagaries and goofy ideas, these amorphous and goofy ideas about how people, do things and how to behave and stuff, and that we somebody was pointing out in this one book that I'm planning to get. I'm really glad somebody sent the recommendation for the book Intellectuals, not the Thomas Sowell one, the Johnson one. That this idea of no, intellectuals throw out everything from the past. This has been the key difference with the right wing and the left in how they've approached debate, how the right is winning in so many political realms, and started really on YouTube, such that YouTube had to alter its way that it even functions, because the right wing did so well in making its argument, and primarily from citing history and citing it accurately and saying, well, this is where I got the source from. That's all the right had to do. The left doesn't do that. And many people, especially I'm noticing this kind of panic among black Democrats, they weren't there to see that on YouTube and to see how the right utterly filleted the left over and over and over again with the left's own knife in their own kitchen. And and to the point that it was even a little embarrassing at times that the left was so bad at citing sources properly, or really sometimes even getting certain ideas, that there was actually a level of abstraction that you would find people on the left weren't quite capable of. That was its own that was its kind of interesting thing of its own, was to witness that over and over again. They couldn't. There was just something that wasn't happening upstairs when you try to make them understand oh, well, this is what's being referred to by that term or these series of words, and they couldn't. They just no longer could grok. They can no longer use their brain in that way to just apply the definition to those words, and then, okay, all right, so when that's what that refers to. That's the definitive, because it's not some matter of something theological or gossamer. It really is a matter of, no, this is a definitive term for this phenomena, for this concept, and that would fuck with them. So the whole thing with the beautiful characters issue is now you have people who really, a lot of corporate, one of the things about cyberpunk that came up is corporate espionage, corporate sabotage and corporate espionage. We are actually seeing a lot of what was in cyberpunk. The blowing up of the pipelines, the amount of drone attacks we're seeing, people, activists and people important to a socio-political issue being assassinated, the media spinning this kind of thing, that now America is actively supporting a country that is rife with neo-Nazi issues in its leadership, in its actually sole political party, and has a long history of neo-Nazism and going all the way back to Nazism. And that they also assassinate people in other countries and regularly threaten the peace and stability of other places. That you never know what might happen there if you don't help us. It's pretty amazing actually how really, Ukraine really is this example of one of the weirdest situations. When people look back, they're going to be like, what did Ukraine have on the leadership of the United States that they, or what was going on here? What was this relationship here? But what we're going to see is soon we're going to start seeing the real issue of the collapse of cities that already now people are starting to discuss. Without the revenues coming in from taxes in a lot of blue enclaves, that there's just simply no way of supporting the pensions from public systems. As the actual people who are part of the productive $60,000 and up taxable income class leave blue enclaves, that money's gone. And when these states have to start paying back their pensions, that's it. They're up Schitt's Creek, because a lot of those kinds of programs have been set in stone. Like that, you made a deal. You have to pay this out, and they're not going to. What the? Lodge number 11 presents. Oh, that's interesting. Huh. I'm just a little surprised. Of all the places to see this, I'm a little surprised to see it here. I think that's called Wayfarer's Lodge, if I remember the names. I forget the one that's over by the campus, but I think that one is the Wayfarer's Lodge. So there's these companies with now Grumzz saying, no, just boycott them, and he's correct. If the amount of money that they're going to have to pay back for the loans and for the materials to make these AAA games, 1 year boycotts will set them on their butt. 2 years folds them. There's just no ifs, ands, or buts about that. And of course it's going to happen. It's of course going to happen. Because it's easy to not spend money. That's it. Yeah. And then also, anything like that, somebody's going to capitalize on it. And so what it's going to be is somebody's going to figure out, we still have this game sitting on Steam all this time. Why don't we try to, do this, that, or the other? And, because, this would be really cool. And it's not like people are buying these other games. All it's going to be is that the summer releases and the releases for Christmas for this year, that's going to be the tester. You are going to see, are people buying them or not? If people are not buying them, then that's that. Then we know. But it's going to come down to, first, this year. And once that momentum starts, one of the best parts about this is all the reaction that people are going to have. So one, the reaction to Chick-fil-A. That was, of course, absolutely genius on Trump's part, was to go to Chick-fil-A. Now, the thing that I'm amazed that people are missing the overall strategy, because, and it's really, I find this happens just too often, or all the time, that a lot of people that get really upset, they get so upset at him, and they just they're like, oh, he's so this way, he's such a bad man, blah, blah, blah. But, okay, so one of the interesting things that he pointed out was, he goes, I went to the Chick-fil-A owned by a member of my club. So this is a bigger statement than what he said. This is probably somebody that they said, yeah, they have these multiple stores. Very likely it's a franchise owner that owns multiple stores. There's a high likelihood this is a black man. The next part is, this is somebody who probably donated rather generously to the campaign and is a part of the network in Georgia that has made it now non-democratic. The Democratic Party no longer has Georgia, which is amazing. That's amazing. That's nobody foresaw that. And now it's interesting. The TikTokers and all these people are getting mad, and it's that special kind of stupid. The special kind of stupid is coming through because they're not getting, well, no, he told you much more than he actually said, and he didn't even probably mean to, really. You have to know, like, that class of society, there's certain logical things about, if you know a franchisee like that you could bring your entire security detail and all those vehicles and everything to the place, that was set up beforehand. So some wealthy black Republican in Georgia helped set this up. And a lot of people need to get with the program on what that means. That really is, like, the Democrats have a serious problem now with being dirtbag hippies, that everyone's figuring out, damn, these are some dirtbags. And all this works for them. Their policies seem to be entertaining and work very much for them. But everybody else kind of languishes because, well, they've legislated a solar panel company for them to work at and them to run, which won't ever function. And all of us who work at the coal plant are going to lose our jobs because dirtbag hippies have a MacGuffin that they've legislated subsidies for. So people are figuring this out, and yeah. But you see, that would require self-effacement, and that's not like a hippie dirtbag thing. So it's yeah. It's that it is not. And so the next thing I was thinking about was also then the reaction to New York women violence in the streets of New York toward women, and that what did the writers do? The writers immediately tried to figure out how MAGA man and his angry MAGA plan and all that was really what was the problem. That it's not that there's a long history of people recording their assaults on victims in New York City. Like that there's literally websites that are just cities like New York and people getting beat the fuck up in the street, and so this is actually really good, that this idea that because the internet never sleeps and the internet goes on forever, you end up now having sort of this thing of like, are you talking about this website that even now moms know about World Star? So it no longer is yeah, the fact that, in a way, one of the best things that's happening is the reaction to reality starting to sink in. That as the water rises, do people like keep playing around like it's Woodstock, or do they start to figure out, wait a second, no, the water's rising, that are they doing some kind of hippie dance, and taking off their pants, or are they starting to figure out, oh shit, we better figure out how to come up with flotation, we better figure out a way out of this. and that it's also starting to make this kind of new understanding that comes from you could pick up on this in 70s movies, one of the best of these is The Warriors, where you see the disco people get on the train, and that the disco people versus the Warriors are sitting on one side and the disco people on the other, and they get increasingly uncomfortable as the Warriors are staring at them in their disco clothes, and the Warriors are like all beaten up, they're bloodied, they've been walking the tracks in the streets of New York, and that more and more you're starting to get kind of this thing of, yeah, there's this middle class understanding of reality that is now that's now kind of coming apart, and like a cookie left in milk too long, and so it's, yeah, and I'm kind of enjoying that, because somebody who brought this up was Kevin Samuels, where he was like, no, it's not, I'm not talking about economic class, I'm talking about social class and the way that people behave in their society. And like never putting your hands in your pockets is that type of class thing. There's a class of people that you'll never see a photo where their hands are in their pockets. They as much as possible do not hide their hands. And unless you like have somebody kind of point that out, you don't really notice it. It's like, you kind of, you like will see a photograph and you'll be like, oh, you could, nobody's got their hands in their pockets in the photo, but you don't really think like, oh no, people of that level of wealth or like low nobility, such like, they actually train their children, do not put your hands in your pockets, like leave your hands out of your pockets. And I didn't, unless you're in that type of societal class, you wouldn't know that that's a thing. Yeah, and this is also evidenced in a lot of, especially once you get back, like Dallas. Dallas definitely is one of these that has these types of people of, that they've come up from, being just oil men to now they're incredibly rich. But then there's these people with old money that treat them this way or treat them that way, and it's, yeah, the social class that is beyond economic class. They're in the same economic class, but they're not the same class. They're not the same kind of people. That's the idea. And we're going to start seeing that more and more as that division widens of these different kinds of people who are, in a way, all one group. So, yeah, just some thoughts I was having. All right.